Your contention to the medical school admissions committees are going to be pay attention to this post-bac GPA because that's who I am now. Well, welcome to Am I Ready? We are in our ongoing mission to help potential medical school applicants with their stuff and see where things stand. And so we're back again here on our YouTube channel, and great to have you guys that are listening or watching us. So we're going to get started with another student. So I want to welcome Lindsay to our broadcast today. Lindsay, how's it going?
Hi, great. How are you?
Doing really well. Now, where are you calling us from today?
I am in Westchester County, New York.
Westchester. Now, I don't know anything about New York, or I know very little about New York. So Westchester County, is that near New York City or?
Mm-hmm. We're the first county outside of New York City.
Okay, great. So you're actually in New York, but you're not in the city.
Correct. I am upstate, according to some.
Okay, nice. So a little bit north and maybe west of the city a little bit.
Correct. It's about 45 minutes for me to get to class because I attend Fordham right now. So about 45 minutes to the Bronx.
Okay. Well, great. Well, we want to welcome you to the broadcast. Thank you for being here, and we're going to talk a lot about you and your journey and see where things stand. And I'll make some judgments and give you some feedback on that. Does that sound okay?
That sounds awesome. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. So for those that are watching our broadcast, I want to remind you that Mapped is a software product, online software product that helps you track all these things and gives you feedback and really puts it all in one spot so that you can kind of evaluate, over the long haul, where things stand and what's what and stuff like that. And so we're going to look at Lindsay's Mapped account and kind of just kind of see where everything stands. So let's pull that up right now. And let's see, where do I have that? Here we go. All right. So the first place we usually like to start is this beautiful GPA graph. And when I pulled this up earlier, Lindsay, you kind of cringed a little bit. And
yeah, a little.
So what we see here is an AMCAS, overall AMCAS GPA, cumulative AMCAS GPA of 3.06 and a science GPA of 2.68. And this goes all the way back to fall of 2005 and progresses through I guess current stuff. Really, is that pretty much right, Lindsay?
Correct. Yep, that's correct. Yeah. So that's my original undergrad is the fall 2005, and then took a break, and then now this is where I'm at, attending Fordham for my post-bac.
Yeah, good. Okay. So this is, I think in a lot of ways, this is what we would call particularly toward the end of things when of this graph, when we look at, really beginning in fall 19, when you kind of, I guess, went back to school. And so we see a notable difference on the end of the graph, on the right side of the graph, than we do on the left side of the graph. So, Lindsay, why don't you tell me a little bit about kind of what this journey, academically at least, looks like for you? What you started off with and kind of what you were doing back then, and then progress into a little bit about, kind of what took you back to school. And so tell us a little bit about your story.
Perfect. Thank you. So undergrad, 2005, I went to Florida State. I moved there from Virginia. I didn't know very many people. Got down there, my first semester, everything seemed fine. That's kind of when you're taking, your standard classes, nothing that was, I guess you could say, too challenging. And then that spring was kind of for me, the semester that I was taking, upper level math, I was taking chemistry for the first time. Also, some personal issues that I was experiencing in a relationship where everything kind of just tanked. Where had I been a little more, I guess you could say, forthcoming or just take some initiative to maybe withdraw from classes as opposed to just, getting, I mean, I got 2 Fs at that point. Instead of, kind of doing the right thing there, I didn't reach out to advisors. I'm a first generation college student. So, my parents didn't really know what I should
How
do.
to help you. Yeah, sure.
Right. In that situation. So, my GPA kind of tanked at that point, and then, I took the opportunity to try to recover from that.
Yeah.
I was originally a bio major. And, when I had met with my advisor, she had said what I've heard from other people, kind of the age old, well, you failed these classes. I don't know that things are going to look good for you. Pre-med's probably not the best path. Maybe we should look at something a little easier. Maybe try another semester and let's see where things can be.
Yeah.
So I took a couple more science classes, did okay. I think B in bio, maybe a C plus in something else, some other science class. And that was kind of where she was like, listen, maybe this is just not the path for you. Right. Let's reevaluate this. So, being 19 at the time, I'm like,
you
maybe.
listened. Yeah.
I was like, yeah, maybe this is not the right path for me. So I looked at other opportunities to be able to assist people in the same capacity. So I looked at psychology. So I ended up switching my major to psych soc. And then that's kind of where things, I guess you could say, went up from there. And then my junior, senior year, I thought, well, what about nursing? We could do nursing. So I started taking some other science classes, anatomy and phys, microbiome, some other classes, which were a little more obviously challenging than some of the psych classes that I had taken. So that kind of shows a little bit of the wave there. And then I graduated and, I thought long and hard about the nursing stuff, and it just didn't seem like the right time for me, honestly, because after I had graduated Florida State, I already had a degree. So a lot of the programs that I were applying to, I wouldn't have gotten financial aid because I already had a degree. So I would have had to take out private loans, and that wasn't an option. And financially, I would have had to pay my own way. So I thought, let's take a pause and go out into the workforce. I guess you could say.
Sure.
For a little bit.
And that's what you did.
And that's what I did. Yeah.
Yeah. And so then 10 years later, tell me what happens.
10 years later. So finally, a little more settled. I had joined the military. I joined the Army Reserve back in 2010, 2011 timeframe. So I wasn't sure where that was going to take me, but long story short, I've been doing that for the past 10 years, and that has given me the opportunity. I do have GI benefits to use, which has been great.
Sure.
That also helped me get experience on the civilian side to get a career. So with that, I've been able to, kind of build up, I guess you could say, myself and some character and resilience that I really didn't have in undergrad. And then also financially kind of set me up for where I'm at. And my fiance now has always known that I wanted to go to school. We met 10 years ago, and he's like, what about now? Like, now seems like a really good opportunity.
Yeah.
So, we looked at different options, and that's where I found Fordham, which was conveniently right in my backyard, but they also have their night school program. So then I just kind of was like, you know what, let's do it. It's been 10 years. I've been out of school. I'm a little rusty. Start with one class so I don't, totally get overwhelmed.
Right.
And then, just kind of took it from there. And that was right in spring of 2020, actually. So,
oh boy.
Yeah. It was like the time to go back to school. So,
and then all hell breaks loose.
Yeah, exactly. I had, I think, 4 classes on campus, and they were like, we're going virtual.
Yeah.
So that was an experience. Yeah.
Right. So what we see then at Fordham is a much different picture of your, and if we can go to this detail here, and what I'd like to show and point out is that we see the best one to look at this is right here. We see this post-bac GPA, which is notably different. An AMCAS post-bac GPA of 3.53, and that's probably all sciences, right? Or almost all sciences.
Correct. That's all science. Plus I have a 5-hour credit for EMT. at the local community college, but it still counts. So,
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So really what I want you to recognize about the medical school admissions process is that AMCAS is going to cut your GPA up into a lot of different pieces. It's not just that cumulative GPA, not just that cumulative science GPA. It's going to be cut up in a lot of different ways. And one of those ways is what we see here is this post-bac GPA. And for a non-traditional student like yourself, Lindsay, what this is going to mean is that they're going to see a remarkably different picture between your undergrad GPA and your post-bac GPA. And so your contention to the medical school admissions committees are going to be, pay attention to this post-bac GPA because that's who I am now. That this is reflective of who I am as a student, as a person now, as opposed to when I was, 10, 15 years ago when I was first in college and didn't know what I was doing and didn't have really a support network that was, going to help me, et cetera, things that you've described. And so, so I want you to really fixate on this 3-5. You're in a 3-5 area as opposed to a 3-0 area, or as opposed to a, 2-something area, with regard to those science classes. And so the good news is that, you're doing really well in your classes, and that's fantastic. And I want you to see that for what it is that you're doing the right stuff. You're making the right effort. I think going back to school was absolutely the right thing for you to do. And so that's great. And now you're enjoying doing the school stuff now?
Yeah, I like it a lot. It's challenging, because I'm, multitasking a little bit. I work
Sure.
full time.
Right.
I'm still in the Army Reserve. I'm serving as a commander for a brigade.
Mhm.
I'm a parent. I have a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
And then I'm
Yeah.
also a volunteer EMT. So it's, throw in the
Yeah.
classes. It's just, you just have to figure out how to manage the time, but the material is great.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's bio 2 for me this semester, which is really interesting. I can say that physics was not my favorite. I don't know that I
Right.
enjoyed that, but but the rest of them have all been really great. It's also a confidence builder for me to see, okay, I was terrified going into it 10 years later, thinking, oh, I wasn't really that great at science before, so maybe this could work out. I don't know. And then, to do well in Chem 2, that was my first class back, to get an A.
Yeah.
I was kind of like, okay, all
Yeah.
right, I
Yeah.
could probably figure this out. I could do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
great. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's wonderful. Well, congrats on that. And I think, what it should do is give you a lot of confidence that, you can be a good student, particularly under the constraints that you're under with working and all the stuff that you've got going on that you just described. I mean, this is pretty notable. And imagine what it's going to be like in medical school when you actually get to focus on one thing.
That's
Right?
what I was thinking. I was like, wow, I don't think even in undergrad I always worked. So to just have school as a focus,
Right.
it's going to be weird. I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Good for you. That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, good. Well, let's go back to the dashboard. So I'm impressed with this end part over here of the GPA graph. I think you're absolutely, in terms of the academic picture, doing the right thing, and so kudos to you for that. Just keep up the hard work. And you were absolutely correct a few minutes ago when you said it's all about managing your time wisely, particularly when you got a lot of stuff going on. So those are great skills to learn. Because it will benefit you in medical school a huge amount. Having good, strong time management skills will really make a big difference. And so that's fantastic that you're developing those skills now on the front end, and not waiting till you get to medical school and having to figure it out at that point. So that's great. That's great. So I'd like to now jump down to, so looks like you've completed all the prerequisites. And so that looks good, and you're in the midst of redoing, I guess, some of those classes in the Fordham program. Is that right?
Right. I had to redo a few, and then also I only got through, kind of the basics. I only had done like Chem 1, Bio 1, stuff like
Right,
that,
right,
A and P.
right,
So
right.
getting all the harder, saving all those fun ones, Chem
Yeah,
2,
right,
organic
right.
chemistry,
Yeah,
ugh,
yeah.
physics. Yeah.
Right, right. Good, good. Now, we're looking here at the MCAT and we see a no score. So you haven't started that process yet. Is that correct?
Right. So I have actually was supposed to take the diagnostic yesterday, but that was probably, not the best planning on Thanksgiving weekend. So
Right, right.
not the best. So I have the blueprint program
hmm
actually
hmm
that I had
hmm
purchased. So I have my whole schedule planned out. So that's beginning now because
Sure. Okay.
I'm what am I slated for? I think it's a 29 April date. So
Okay.
um, I've been working on that, doing some of the modules in there and
Yeah.
content review, which has been a little hard taking the Bio 2 class. I don't know what I expected out of Bio 2, but it's been a lot to kind
Yeah.
of, do it once. But I figure it's kind of content review and it, a little bit in and of itself.
hmm
So
hmm
I'm just working on that now to
Okay.
get that ready for April,
Yeah,
end of April.
and that's going to give you really about 5 months from now. So December, and luckily over the holidays, that will give you a time where you won't be in school. So you'll be able to really focus what time you would be spending in school, maybe on MCAT, prep, and really beginning a good regimen of establishing a good, strong relationship with the study materials and with the a plan to move you forward. So I think April sounds like a good time period for you, in my estimation, and so that sounds good. That sounds really good. And obviously, I think taking that diagnostic test is going to be good, and it's also going to be a little sobering. Prepare yourself for that.
Yeah.
Most people, when they take the diagnostic, it's not a pretty picture,
Yeah.
and they it can sometimes, oh my gosh, they think, whoa, I got a lot of work to do, and so just prepare yourself for that. And but that's the whole point of the diagnostic, is to give you a sense of where do I stand at the front end, and what do I need to do to get me to the point where I'm really going to be as successful as I want to be on the
Yeah.
MCAT to be competitive applicant.
Yeah, I was a little terrified, to be honest, to take that. And then I was like, all right, just to remember this is the starting point. This is to get used
Yes,
to it and to understand.
that's right.
And then this is my last semester of Fordham too,
hmm
fortunately. So I'm totally open. That's all I have
Good.
is, focusing on MCAT studying. So
Yeah, that's great. So spring, you're really going to be just focusing on MCAT, and I mean, in addition to all the other stuff that you're doing, but in terms of academically, you're going to be really focused just on MCAT. So that's
yeah.
perfect. Really good. 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 Okay. Good. Um, so let's go up now to your activities, and so I'm going to look at the list of things here. And so what I would like for you to do is kind of just describe, to us here what we're seeing. Why don't you just kind of run down these things with me?
So some of these are older, right? So I had a
Okay.
level of
hmm
community service at Florida State when I was an
hmm
undergrad. So
hmm
that top one, I was in a sorority and we did dance marathon. So that was our, philanthropic event that we did. I guess they do them at a bunch of different universities. So
Right. Right.
that was the one event that I added there. And then
hmm
Everyday Warrior, I think it's probably lapsed now, but a CrossFit level 1 trainer. So I was active in that whole CrossFit community. For this one, that was when I was deployed actually in the Middle East. In
hmm
Kuwait, we
hmm
ran an event there to do that where you raise money for cancer survivors. So I was in charge of running that for I guess not the whole installation, but the CrossFit that we had over there.
Uh-huh.
The third one down is what we call in the military, it's an outstanding volunteer service medal. I'm
hmm
not totally sure how to classify that because that's probably a question I have for you actually, is when I was deployed, I volunteered my time as a coach at our
Uh-huh.
CrossFit affiliate there.
Sure.
And it's about probably 250 hours or
Yeah.
300 hours that I contributed, but I was not really totally sure how to categorize that. Like I put it down under volunteer,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
then it also contributes towards, I guess, an award. So that was kind of a weird one.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, with the application, you can, it's up to you. You choose what you think, in consultation with anybody that's helping you, a mentor, an advisor, or whatever, to choose what you think is the appropriate category. And most medical schools aren't going to tinker with that too much in terms of their thoughts on it, as long as you make a good faith effort, and in your description of that activity you kind of explain what it was all about. And I think 90% of the time, as long as things make sense, then that should be fine. So I think sounds to me like the way that you're describing it, categorizing it under probably volunteerism would be appropriate, or community service type things. And then the fact that it led to an award, you can include that as a separate entry as an award. Uh,
Okay.
or you could include it with the description of the activity itself. It's kind of either way you want to do that.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah,
Uh,
sure.
and then let's see some of the other ones again. The Pat Tillman Foundation, again, that's similar,
Hmm. Hmm.
more volunteer raising through CrossFit. And then Renew, that's on my transcript too, those hours. That was the organization with realizing everyone's need for emotional wellness. We
Hmm.
basically, as an organization, went and gave webinars, or not webinars, in person seminars about how
Hmm.
study skills, time management, test anxiety, other things like that. So I
Yeah.
was the treasurer and then vice president of that organization for the 4 years that I was
Yeah.
in undergrad.
Hmm.
And then again, there's three. I have a trend here. The
Yeah.
Three Wise Men Foundation, more CrossFit
Yeah.
fundraising.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and then again, the CrossFit volunteer coach. That one's
Sure.
kind of my span when I was deployed, but I also did that back here in Westchester once I was home. And
Hmm.
then I have the volunteer EMTB, and that's basically projecting what I'll have by the time I would
You
matriculate
apply. Yeah.
because,
Hmm.
so I am usually doing the 24 hours a month because again, it's super hard to fit in the
Sure.
hours. So
Sure.
I'm kind of estimating right now I have to, really
Yeah.
make up for that
Yeah.
once I'm out of school.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now, tell me about, so one of the things that you'll want to include in the activities here, you can do it on map to certainly, but in the application itself under activities, you'll want to include your employment, what you have been doing, employment wise. And even though so give me a sense, what do you do?
What do I do? I am a manager of a team of 13, and we
Hmm.
provide wheelchair ramps for veterans through the VA. We have a contract through the
Okay,
Midwest. So
awesome.
I manage that team. I basically manage that division and report
Right.
directly to the owner of the company.
Yeah. Okay. That's awesome. What a great outreach thing that you do. I mean, I'm sure it's very close to your heart in terms of being a veteran yourself, and being able to work in a field where you reach out to veterans that need that type of assistance. That's really awesome. I'm sure it's very satisfying in a lot of ways.
It is because you have a direct impact.
Sure.
You're able to provide the level of customer service that veterans should be getting.
Hmm.
Everything from start to finish is, we own it, we touch it, we provide it. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's really great to shape the program and the policies and, you know, get the veteran exactly what they need when they need it. I mean, really
Hmm.
fast. We're
Hmm.
talking
Sure.
within a couple days they could have a ramp. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's kind of unheard of.
Yeah,
Um,
that's incredible. That's great. Another thing that you want to include on your activities is your service in the military, also, and be as specific as possible on that, in terms of what you're, not only what you did prior to deployment, but in deployment, and kind of describe that. You don't have, on the AMCAS application you have 15 slots that you can fill out that you describe anything and everything that you do and that you're about. Does not have to be medically related. So, for example, your military service or your work now or whatever. Um, and in addition, you'll want to include that you have the ability to identify of all those activities 3 that are what they call most meaningful to you. And so, for example, my guess is that your military service is going to be one of those 3. It's probably molded you into very much the person that you are today in a lot of ways. I'm just sort of presuming that that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
and so by identifying something as most meaningful, you get an extra amount of space to talk about that activity.
Okay.
And so for each of the descriptions of these activities, you get 700 characters, and then for that for those 3, you get an extra or an additional essay space of 1,300 characters, 1,325 characters, to be able to talk more about kind of why that was most meaningful to you and how it impacted you and made you, the person you are today, and whatever you want to say about it, etc. So you'll have those abilities, and so that's great. And I love the fact that you're a volunteer EMT, and it means that you are committed to this idea of medicine and of being involved in the community with really no, you're not getting paid for it. You're doing it for the benefit of those that you serve. Yeah, and that makes
Exactly.
and my guess is that has been an incredible experience for you. My guess is that you've seen a lot of interesting stuff, and that you've interacted with lots of very interesting people, etc. Would that be a correct statement?
Yeah, that would be. It's been a great experience. The people that I work with are all awesome, and just getting to know the community was a part that I
Mhm.
don't think I realized was so not important, but such an aspect of it, right? Like we've met, town officials, we work with the fire department. Um,
Mhm.
every single call that we go on is with Yorktown PD too. So we actually know everybody in the police department at this point.
Yeah.
So it's a
Yeah.
really heavy community, I guess, focused
Yeah.
core. So,
Yeah.
and then we
Yeah.
also work directly with the advanced EMTs, the paramedics. So,
Right.
they've shown me things like how to do a line and,
Right.
other things that they're maybe not supposed to show me, but they do.
Right.
So being on a lot of calls with them, they show me a lot of things that I guess I wouldn't see if we were just EMTB. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
they let me do whatever. They throw me in there and, they're like, go ahead, you got this. So
Right, right,
it's
right.
been
Yeah.
really
That's
fun.
awesome. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so, I think it would be, when you're selecting those 3 most meaningful um, activities, I think you want to be very thoughtful about that,
Okay.
and be honest about it, but also very thoughtful in terms of what are you trying to communicate to the admissions committee, to a reader of your application. What are you trying to communicate to them? And so I would say, certainly, as you indicated, the military service is going to be one of those most meaningful things. Potentially, I guess, not trying to suggest anything here, but potentially that EMT work
Yep.
and the training that you went through for the EMT may well be a pretty meaningful thing for you in terms of this journey you're on.
Yeah,
Uh,
definitely.
and that, as I said, that really gives you the opportunity to talk a lot about what you did and what you currently do, and what it's all about and what's meant to you. And so that's great. That's really fantastic. So keep up the good work.
Mm. Thanks.
So
Thank
let's
you.
of course, let's look at some see if you've got some medical schools identified, and you do here. So we've got quite a few that you've looked at, and
Need to
um,
narrow down probably.
yeah, there's 37 that you have there. It
Far
looks
too
like
many. Yeah.
you've identified schools really across the country. Looks like most of
Mhm.
them are pretty much centered in the New York sort of northeastern kinds of areas, but you've got a lot of different ones also identified. And I see that you've identified both MD and DO schools as well. So your plan, I guess, at this point is to apply both MD and DO?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Both.
Okay.
I'm not sure if MCAT score will really impact that, but I guess I wasn't sure. I like the DO. I guess you could say the way they do stuff. I like the osteopathic side of things versus allopathic. I mean, I think both are awesome, but for me, I don't know that I was doing it because I've had a better chance of getting in DO. I just looked at the model and the way they do stuff, and that looked like something up my alley too.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have any thoughts at this point in your journey about what kind of medicine you might be interested in?
I flip-flop. I totally don't know. I'm kind of open. I feel like once I'm doing it, I think my ideal will change and what I like. I know that I like having some level of longevity. So for me, emergency room stuff, doing it with the EMT has kind of shown me what I don't think I want to do.
Right.
Because you don't build relationships, and I really like building relationships. That's kind of a pillar for me. So
yeah.
I can say what I don't want to do.
Yeah. Well, no, that's good. And I think it's good to have some thoughts about that on the front end, but ultimately you're going to make some decisions during medical school that are going to change, and you're going to be, really, you're going to see things, you're going to do things in medical school that are going to help you with that decision-making process. And, I particularly think if you really like the idea of relationships with your patients and sort of seeing them longitudinally through, a lot of different parts of their life and stuff like that, primary care may be something that you may want to consider is that's probably the most relational area of medicine, just because you see people over the long haul, and often you see families and the whole family, depending on what type of primary care that involves. But I'm glad to hear that you're open to kind of keeping an open mind and evaluating that as it goes through, and I think being able to identify even now on the front end, well, I don't know what it's going to look like, but I don't think I like this part. So, I like that idea that you're thinking in those ways. And so that's great. Really good. Really good. And so, and I think that I like the idea that you're using Mapped here as a guide to looking at the various schools and kind of identifying which ones, I think that's one of the great things about the Mapped product is it really does give you a sense of this is what my picture looks like. And now let me look at these medical schools. All the medical schools in the country are in there, and you can kind of look at them and see what they do and what they're all about, and begin to sort of formulate an idea of what schools you might want to apply to. So I do think you're going to want to whittle that down to a manageable number. I think a lot of students these days are applying to. I think an average would be maybe somewhere around 20 or so. Would be true, but I also see students that apply to maybe as many as 25 or so, and then you have the small number of students who seem to have unlimited amounts of cash and time, and they apply to 30, 40. I've seen students apply to 50 schools, and I don't know how they do that, but
that's overwhelming.
It's completely overwhelming. And so particularly, noting that you've got a lot of secondary applications that you have to do, and that it costs money to apply to all those schools, both in terms of the primary application and secondary app fees. And so it's a lot. And so I think in terms of, what the typical student's going to do is I think maybe shooting for somewhere around 20 would be a kind of a good number to have in your mind, at least. So.
Perfect. Yeah. Some of these are a little lofty, right? Like if you have Georgetown,
right.
Georgetown, that one's a little bit of a stretch.
Right.
But I did that National Youth Leadership Forum on medicine there back in, 2000 something, 2004 or 2003, an eternity ago. So, that I just know about that program. I loved that whole experience that I had. So
Sure.
that's why that one's on there. But then you look at some of the, the averages and means, and can be a little off-putting and terrifying. But
Right,
I
right, right.
I think that once I do take the MCAT, for real, or, the actual full length diagnostics later in my journey, like March or somewhere around then, maybe I'll have a more realistic idea of
Yeah,
what makes sense for me. So right
yeah.
now I'm just basically looking at ethos and location and, what their program looks like. Is it small case study type stuff, or is it the big
Mhm.
traditional
Right,
um, type
right,
programs, and then
right.
narrowing it down from there?
Yeah, that's perfect. Best way to do it, and I think you're doing it the right way, and really, spending some time with it, and that's one of the things I would encourage you to do over the course of the spring when you're doing the MCAT studying and everything. Just take one a week or one or two a week or something, and just dive into those medical schools, and don't be satisfied with just their website. Look, dig down into that website and really, get down and dirty in whatever you can with what they have available and what you can find. And I think you'll begin to get a sense, well, these are schools that I really connected with or that were intriguing to me, and these are schools that I thought, well,
Yeah.
sounds okay, but doesn't excite me that much. So I would just say take your time doing that. You got plenty of time between now and May to work that out, and figure out what schools really are going to be the ones that you want to really spend some time with. So that's good.
Perfect.
Yeah, good. So, basically, I think I get a good picture here, Lindsay, of you, and what it seems to me like is that you're a hard worker. You're doing well. You've got a good head on your shoulders. You're intelligent. You're good in the classroom. On this end of things, you've really shown that you can do the work, and that you're committed to the idea of going to medical school, and of working hard to make yourself successful in that. And so I think the big question mark, obviously, for you at this point is the MCAT.
Yeah.
And so what I would say is, I'm going to give you what I always talk about things in terms of red light, yellow light, green light, and I'm going to give you a secure, a very a very solid yellow light, and the solid yellow light is really because of the question mark in terms of the MCAT, and
Okay.
not that the MCAT is everything. It's certainly not. Uh, Most medical schools, the vast majority of medical schools, really have a much more sort of holistic approach to. And I know we throw that word around, and I think some medical schools use it and don't really do that, and then
Yeah.
some schools really, they say it, and they put their feet go with their words, and so but I think that you've got a good picture here, of a young lady that has a lot going for her, and really has a sense of what she wants to do in life, and where she wants to push herself, and you're doing the right things. You're doing all the right things. And so what I would say is keep the plan in terms of the study plan for the MCAT. Utilize, if you're going to use Blueprint, which I think you said you've signed up for Blueprint, and
Mhm.
utilize all of the resources. Take a lot, really study the information, really study the resources that they have available to you, and then once you begin taking full length practice exams, you're going to end up doing quite a few of those, and then when you do a practice exam, then the key, I think, is that you have to study the practice exam after it's scored, and you really have to study, where did I miss, what questions did I miss, and why did I miss them, and really
Okay.
study those exams, and really take a deep dive into those areas where you made a mistake. Why did I make a mistake on this exam? on this particular question. Did I misread it? Did I not see the signs in the question itself? Did I just not know the material? What's going on here? And so I think if you'll commit yourself to doing that and to really a strong study routine, then I think my suspicion would be you're going to do okay and have a solid score that's going to get you some attention. So all in all, my only reservation, of course, is the MCAT, and I think you've got a picture of a very common picture of a non-traditional student where you're working and you've got a lot going on, but you've got a good story there. And so my suspicion, so what I would say, feedback wise, I would say just keep up the hard work, keep what you're doing, and work hard at what you're doing. Stay in that zone of things, and once you get that MCAT score back, then that will help guide you a little bit. But I would anticipate, that I would say move forward. I don't see anything that would cause me to think that you're not going to be ready for this next application cycle, and then choose wisely the schools that you're interested in and that you'll ultimately apply to, and move forward with confidence in the process, and see where things go. And but I'm encouraged by what I've seen, and I think there's a lot of schools out there that really like non-traditional students. Not that there are schools that don't like non-traditional students and that are opposed to them. I don't think that any medical school really positions themselves in that kind of way. But I think the story that you present is a good one, and I think I would definitely say that you're doing all the right things and you're moving forward in a very logical, a very committed kind of way, and keep up the good work. Definitely.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I'm again nervous about the MCAT, but
Sure.
I have the time to dedicate to it, and I know
Yeah.
that it is, regardless of what we want to say, I know it is really important. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
just have to dedicate the time to
Yep.
practice taking them, and just kind of grind through it at this point.
Yeah, that's that. I mean, that's exactly right. And I would be more concerned if you weren't nervous about it. I think anxiety is, heightens our bodies and our minds. Too much anxiety is not good. Too little anxiety is not good. So I think
Yeah.
it's always the challenge is to find that balance, find the level of anxiety that really gets you going and keeps you motivated and working
Yeah.
hard, but not so much that it hinders you and makes it difficult to be successful. So I think I'm glad to hear that you're a little nervous about the MCAT. I think that's not a bad thing.
I'd say I am, yeah, and I'm comfortable with the uncomfortable, right?
Yeah, there you
So,
go.
you
Yeah,
know,
absolutely,
just kind of have to do
absolutely.
it. So I
That's
guess
right.
one question that I had,
Yeah,
if I could, is
yeah.
target MCAT score. If we had an idea or range, what would be
Mhm.
something that I guess you're always supposed to aim for the highest you can do, right? But
Yeah, and I think that what you'll begin to get is a sense of once you're going to take the diagnostic. My guess is here pretty soon, in the next week or so, and and you'll get a sense from the diagnostic. Now that's going to give you a sort of floorboard of where you are, and then you're going to start moving up from that. And so, what I would say in terms of setting a target score is wait until probably March, when you've had some experience with a number of different practice exams, and you start getting a sense of where, kind of where am I? And you're going to kind of go a little high, you're going to get hit a little low, and but you're going to get a sense of, okay, I'm right around this area, and this is where I keep kind of hitting on those practice exams, and that's going to give you a sense of sort of where you're going to end up. Are in the zone at least, and so, but I would say, at a minimum, I would say you might want to shoot for, in terms of setting at this point a goal, is maybe set a goal of something around 510.
Okay.
to give yourself sort of a shooting point. And then once you start taking the practice exams and kind of evaluating where you really are, then I think it might be good then to adjust that accordingly, up or down, depending on kind of what the reality looks like. But absolutely, shooting for the stars is great, and I would say if you want to shoot for a 520, go for it, or whatever,
Yeah.
But I would say you'll get a better sense once you kind of start getting into those practice exams about where things might show up.
Okay, good, because that's also what I was thinking, but then, I've seen other pre-meds and what they've been doing and seemed, should I be panicky because because I don't really know
Yeah.
yet or have a target range? Because
No.
people are like, "You should start this way," and,
Yeah,
you know
no, that's and I say this a lot in our broadcasts and stuff, but I would be very, very careful about reading too much on Reddit or on Student
Oh,
Doctor
I
Network
don't
in
even
the
go.
Good, good, because that can mess you up. So be
Yeah,
very careful. Now, there's some good stuff on Student Doctor Network, and I don't want to just blanket say that that's a bad thing, but I think the forums on Student Doctor Network are ripe with anxiety
mhm,
and with just some bad advice and stuff. And I think on Reddit as well, the wheels can fall off very quickly if you listen to too much of that stuff. And talking about
yeah.
increasing anxiety, that's a good way to do it, is get on those forums and stuff. And
Crush your
wow.
dreams.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So
Yeah,
just be aware of that and be careful. And I say that not only for your benefit, but also for those that are watching and listening later
yeah,
to just be careful with those, because you really can get pretty messed up. So.
yeah.
Good. Well,
Awesome.
Lindsay, it's been great to meet you today. Thank you for joining us on Am I Ready? And I hope that the journey continues to be a successful one for you. Please do keep in touch with us here at MAPT and let us know how things are going.
Awesome. Well, thank you for having me. It's a great opportunity and it's awesome to be able to review it. I appreciate all the feedback. It's really important in the process. So,
Yeah, good. Absolutely. Well, thanks. It's been fun to meet you and to look at things. And I would say on my end of things that things look promising. So hopefully that's encouraging to you.
phew, yeah.
All right. Good. All right. Well, so we'll end it there, and then the editors will take over and stuff like
Perfect.
that. But yeah, everything looks good. So congrats on this journey, and good luck. And I hope things go well for you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Enjoy the
Yeah,
rest of your day.
and yeah, absolutely, and you too. I'm being completely sincere when I say please do keep in touch with us and let us know how things are going for you.
Awesome. Hopefully, I get a couple of those acceptances and I can, do really well on
Yes.
the MCAT. Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
yes. That'd be great. That'd be great.
Yeah.
All
Well,
right. Well,
thank
have a
you.
good day. Okay.
Thank you. You too. All
Okay. Bye bye.
right.